All right.
Well, I don't even fucking know.
Council Pop.
Welcome to another episode of Council Pop.
Woo!
We are the Bluff Council.
Yeah.
I'm Ev Duran.
I'm Keith Macri. We are the Bluff Council.
I already said that, Keith.
But I'm reiterating so people know.
We're the Bluff Council.
We are Bluff Council.
I am Iron Man.
Yeah. You are. We are the Bluff Council. It's a community.
It is. It's a community.
Anyways, we had to. This is a big movie. It's a big thing.
It's a
Doctor
big deal.
Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Ev, I want to hear your quick hot take. What was your gut reaction walking out of the theater? What did you think?
The gut reaction, walking out of the theater, 1 minute on the clock.
You wasted 10 seconds.
If I didn't have to do this show, I would have walked out halfway through the film. I thought it was the worst piece of shit I have ever seen. I thought it was fucking awful. And I just want to spend this time apologizing to everybody who loves this movie, because you're going to hate me and you're going to turn this off. But I just want you to know that, like, I am sorry, but if you liked it, you are wrong. It is stupid and awful and campy and boring and so lame and so poorly made. And I was honestly like, this is comical. This is comical how bad this film is. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is basically done for me. I'm basically done. This is the nail in the coffin. That's 53 seconds. That's enough. Well, but please stick around. I'll tell you some stuff I liked about it too.
So, I mean, that's the episode's over, guys. The episode's over. The episode's over.
Keith, 1 minute on the clock. Go right ahead.
It's hard to follow. I didn't know what to think. I don't want to be as extreme as Everett, because I want to continue doing this show. I think it is all over the place. That's a kind way of probably saying what you're saying, but the film is all over the place. It's hard to follow in a lot of different ways, but there are some fun moments. And as I think most MCU movies have become, it's a collection of fun moments. And if you can find a way to enjoy those, because you're a comic book fan, you're going to enjoy the movie as a whole. And I think there's some fun moments. I think there's some fun. Put more time on my clock. I think there's some fun moments. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I enjoyed chunks of it at times, and I disliked chunks of it at times as well.
Wrap it up.
Talking about what I was telling you.
You just want to hear yourself talk. Go ahead. I'm going to take a nap.
You know what I just want to say is equating a film that has some fun moments with being a good film is the definition of having bad taste. That means you have bad taste. And I would like to talk about that more in my three keys.
Wow. This is, I didn't realize you were coming for blood. I should have known. I should have known better. But he is coming for blood. And now I feel like I'm gonna have to take the other side. I feel like I have no choice. And I didn't want to do that, but here we are.
No.
This is the fucking best movie I've ever seen. And fucking
Look, you can think it's awful, and we'd still be arguing opposite sides, because I think it's fucking garbage. We'd still be far enough apart that we could struggle to meet in the middle.
All right. 3 keys.
My 3 keys, okay? My first key the thought as I walked away from this film was, why? What the fuck are we doing? I'm done. That's what I talk about. So I want to talk about...
That's key number 1.
So
What the fuck are we doing?
I want to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what that's going to look like when it inevitably dies. Because it's going to. Nothing lasts forever. So to me, I just saw the first step towards that. So that's my number one key. My second key is I'd like to talk about Sam Raimi and his style, and also just why people like him. Like, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but like why people like his film. Like, not just like you shouldn't like his movies, because he's made some great movies, but I just mean like, why are people excited about like, oh, Sam Raimi is making this movie, and oh, let's get him to do the Fantastic Four and all this shit. Like, I don't really understand that. So let's talk about that. And then number three is, I want to talk about Doctor Strange as a character, and the pros and the cons, because I think he, as a character, he brings a lot of both. And so I'm curious what you think about him as sort of a leading man in the Marvel universe.
Not just
What are your keys?
the character or Benedict Cumberbatch? The character.
Well, Benedict Cumberbatch is a wonderful actor, and any film is lucky to have him. So the character is what I'm more interested in.
Fair, just clarity's sake for our one viewer who's still watching.
Yeah. Everybody's mad at me.
My three keys. The first thing I want to talk about is Marvel's attempt to make a horror film. Put that in quotes a little bit, but I think it's interesting. Did they execute it? Did they not? I think we know what Everett's take is. I want to talk about Elizabeth Olsen. I saw some, and I want to talk about her talent. I saw some things in there that I was impressed with. The third thing is probably something that you want to talk about. Is I think it's kind of your first point, but I wanted to talk about the MCU. I think always you have, at the end of these movies, you go, all right, how does this work? Where does this fit in? What are we doing? So the connection between the MCU, this film's connection within the MCU is, I guess, the thing I wanted to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like those keys, it's good we got that out of the way, because we're not going to stick to this schedule at all.
Yeah, this is going to be a rant of nonsense.
So my first key, is this the end? Is this the sweet release of death?
If you're asking me, yes, 100%. And this was going to be my bonus. I was going to have a bonus thing.
Okay.
And we'll start here. We often ask the question, who is this movie for? Just generally when we talk about movies, like who's the audience for this? Who's interested in this? Who are they making this movie for? It's clear to me in watching this film specifically that Marvel is no longer making movies for me. Like, I'm not part, and they don't care. And I think the biggest problem is this is what happens when you try to appeal to everyone, a 13-year-old girl and a 45-year-old man. It's just, and everyone in between. It's just, it's impossible. You can't do it. So is it the end? Absolutely, because they're going to continue to try and do everything and do nothing well. They're getting younger and I'm getting older.
I get older, they stay the same age.
Nothing is going to match anymore. My tastes are shifting, and their genres and stories are shifting away from where I am shifting. And I think that we both need to accept that.
So the flip side to that would be people that are praising this film for like the horror elements, because this is like the most violent, probably, like weird in a horror violence way.
Sure.
So you can't tell me that this movie is like targeted for children
1,000%.
as much as other ones have been.
Yes, not as much as other ones, but this is a movie parents would let their kids see. This isn't a movie
I feel like this one, it starts to toe the line a little bit.
No, absolutely. Batman is a movie parents would not let their kids see. That's the difference. Batman, the Batman.
Bad parents do. I'm just kidding. Not you guys. I'm joking.
That's the difference. To me, that's the difference. The parents would never let their kids see the Batman, the new Robert Pattinson movie. And parents would absolutely let their kids. Are there some moments where you go, maybe close your eyes? Are there moments that kids, that 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds and 10-year-olds might be scared? Of course. But that doesn't mean it's not appropriate for them. There are scary movies for kids, and this is one of them. They're never going to get away from that. It's just going to be watered down versions of really nonsense. The reason I fell in love with the MCU in the beginning was the type of stories they were telling. If you look at those first 20 movies, majority of them were smaller scale stories and more personal, more grounded work within those characters. Like Captain America movies, like looking back, those seem like tame compared to these crazy, like you just keep going up and up and up and up. So we've gotten away from like storytelling of like a human, these superheroes as humans, like as people. And now it's just bigger and bigger. And they've shifted into sci-fi. Like it's clear, and I'm not a sci-fi guy. Like this is just pushing, as we're going weirder and more space and more multi-dimensions and just like, this is Star Trek.
Magic
and just things like that. We're not getting to the core of the things that everyone can relate to of those human aspects. It's just more fantastical. And and it's gonna be that, but just for kids always. Always, always, always. And I don't want to watch that. I'd rather watch the Batman. I'm team DC. I never thought I would have said it. But yeah, DC is going to take a more adult approach to things, and I'm technically an adult.
That's what your birth certificate says anyways.
Yeah, on paper, I'm an adult.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point. I think that's a good point just about like, and that's why it has to end. Like it's going to end, and what does the end look like? Because it can't just keep doubling and tripling down on insanity. I'm interested to see how they handle that. I think they're gonna have to like do a reset of some kind. Like they're gonna have to get to these galactic level, everything's magic, everything's multiverse, everything's this, and then they're gonna have to find a way to shrink that back down to start over again, to introduce maybe the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in their own isolated worlds. Because you cannot keep building upon yourself where you have to factor in all of these other events from 30 other movies into your character's storylines, because that's how you end up with like the Eternals, where you're rapidly trying to introduce 10 new characters and explain why they're super powerful, but they also just couldn't show up for all that other stuff. And you're just gonna have to keep doing it. You can't keep doing that. So I'm curious what the end of the MCU as we know it now will look like, how they will try to reboot that at some point, I would imagine. Like I said, they have to. I honestly started to wonder during this film, like literally this is how my mind was wandering as it started to get so fucking bananas. I was like, maybe Kevin Feige's just getting a little bored. Like maybe he's just like, oh God, I gotta get out of this. I'm ready to pass this off. Because I don't understand, like I'm shocked that this movie was made. Like the way that it is, like bringing in Sam Raimi, sure. But going full into this like style that's so weird and so over the top, and like, I'm just shocked because this to me is, this and Thor are the two tentpole franchises right now. Like not, even Spider-Man's a little less because it might be a part of this new Sony thing and it might be leaving, like, you know, they're figuring it out. Yeah. But like, this Doctor Strange story is almost the one that's driving the whole MCU story forward the most.
Yeah.
So this is the one that you can't mess up. And this feels a little messed up to me. Like it's kind of sloppy and like hard to, like you're saying, hard to follow. Yeah. It is a little sloppy, and that's one of the first things I wrote down was like, it just the movie starts and you're in. There's zero attempt to like bring you up to speed, to like, you better have watched WandaVision, you better remember all the details about the multiverse, you better remember a couple things from the Loki show, you bet like all this shit, and there's just no recap. And sure, maybe that doesn't matter if you're a big fan at this point. You probably know a lot of stuff, but like I follow this shit pretty closely, and I never felt like I had a chance to like catch my breath. Like, can I get a reset for a second so I can understand what's going on? Who's this fucking girl? Why am I supposed to care about this girl all of a sudden? Why is her power so important? Don't they go to other dimensions and universes all the time? What are we talking? Like,
if we learn anything from Spider-Man No Way Home, is that they're going to gloss over the important parts of like storytelling and filmmaking, and you're just here for the fantastical moments. And that's what you're going to remember. You're going to remember there was 3 Spider-Mans. You're going to remember all the cameos in Doctor Strange, and they had some fun horror elements. And that's all people really give a shit about. And they know that. So they just go, okay, we would just like,
No
she's
Way
important.
Home is a fucking, is Citizen Kane compared to this movie. I mean, No Way Home at least like tries to still give you like this like a grounded story at least to build around, like, oh, my friends can't get accepted to college because of my bullshit. I have to do it. Like,
it's better. I'm not arguing that it's not better. Like, it's much better. that's a much better film. But just when you start to get into the nuts and bolts of that story, we've talked about it, it falls apart pretty quickly. This doesn't even get to that point. I was furious because I was looking forward to this film. I'm not gonna lie. I really, really thought this was gonna be awesome. Like, I've had it circled on my calendar, on this fake calendar that I don't actually have. But I've circled it years ago. I was just like, when they announced it, I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be a big deal. And I think it's gonna be really awesome. Because I like the Doctor Strange character.
That helps contribute mightily to my vitriol at the top of this episode, is because I'm hurt. Because I also had high expectations and like wanted to love it. Like I was like, I'm really excited for this one. I was more excited for this one than I was for No Way Home, just based on the lead up. Thinking like, wow, because they can do anything. That's what I thought. I thought they can do anything in this movie. And with the awesomeness of No Way Home, like bringing back those 2 Spider-Men and making that really fun and just genuinely entertaining, I thought, Multiverse of Madness. You think No Way Home was crazy? Wait till they get to Multiverse of Madness. It's gonna be fucking like nuts in all the right ways. And it's really gonna like sweep out your legs a bunch of times. But it didn't do any of that. It was convoluted and sloppy. And there were ideas there were elements in the film that I was really interested in, and I thought were like, had the potential to, if you explore that, wow, how great is this gonna be? But they never landed any of those things, and it just becomes such a sloppy mess of like, zero stakes. I have no idea what's happening. Sometimes magic works, sometimes it doesn't. You're supposed to care about this girl, she's the driving force, but I don't know anything about that character. I don't care about that girl, like, what the fuck? And I'm just bummed. Oh, and the other point, sorry, real quick. To the point of like, they can do anything. They didn't do anything. They gave us 5 characters at the Illuminati or whatever it was, 5 or 6 characters that they basically revealed all of in the trailer anyways. There were really no surprises.
I know.
And then it's just like a fucking, it's just a bait and switch. Like they just like, oh no, we're killing these characters immediately to show how evil she is now. But I just met those characters. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Well, that was the point.
The bait and switch is the best way to describe what that moment was. And I thought it was fun. Like, that thing that she starts killing all those people, I kind of thought it was fun, but you're right. All it was is to get people, like, from their standpoint, we're just, like, people are going to talk about that scene all the time because that's one of those comic book crazy moments where, oh my God, John Krasinski shows up and then he dies immediately. It's like, oh, that's crazy. Professor X is here. We've seen him and he's dead. Oh my God, this is great. Like it just, and bait and switch is the best way to describe that. Is you think for a moment that like this is the future because everyone's been waiting for X-Men. Everyone's been waiting for Fantastic Four since the merger of Fox. And they're like, we're gonna give it to you. Ha, fuck you. We're not. Hilarious.
What now?
Elizabeth Olsen and that character, I was the only redeemable part of the film. I thought I said it in my head. I said she's too good for this movie. she is giving too good of a performance for what she has been given to work with. It's unfair to her level of talent. When she's being like aggressive and like throwing fireballs or whatever, like whatever. But there are that first scene with her and Benedict Cumberbatch, those are 2 great actors in a human-to-human moment. And that really pops because of their talent. I just feel like the MCU now is misusing these big actors that they get to be in these films because that was the crux before. It was like, let's get Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man, and this is about him and his growth as a person. And you're gonna see him evolve over 10 years to become this amazing, from a self-centered piece of shit to womanizer or whatever to, make the ultimate sacrifice. That's why all of the other shit around it works, is because we care about them as a person. And Wanda, her character, fully fleshed out in this because of the TV show. So you have all that frame of reference. And because of Infinity War. You see what she's went through, and because of Endgame. Like, it's all part of building to this moment. And that was the beauty of the MCU, is everybody is the main character. Every single character is the main character, and you just get bits of their individual stories throughout all these other movies. And so by the time you get to a movie like this, where it's like you're now a real main character in this movie, you don't have to explain anything. You get her loss of her children. You get her motivation. You get where she's coming from. Her turn, you see the evolution of her turn from babyface to heel. Like, you see it, and you're okay with it. And her performance on top of it, of a villain, I thought was awesome. I thought she was great. But Marvel, outside of that little piece, has gone away from that formula completely, and I think that's why all of this is kind of sloppy. Why everything else is sloppy.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen is obviously amazing. I actually liked her performance more in WandaVision as a whole than this movie, but that's because I think that WandaVision was a really top level, and this was very good. I thought she dialed it up once or twice, but that's sort of the movie. Like, that's kind of the movie, is like, you know, you're playing an evil witch possessed, you know. So I get it. I thought she did really good. What was your first key? Elizabeth Olsen was your second.
Was my second key. My first key was the horror. This is Marvel's first. So my key is we're all over the place. We're jumping around. Deal with it. I do want to talk about the attempt at making a horror film. I think my personal opinion is they missed. They missed, and I don't know why people are sort of praising it for the horror. Because if you're going to make a horror movie, make a horror movie. This has horror sequences. And 65% or 75% of the movie is a kid's movie. And with silly, quirky, fun things.
I think that's the Sam Raimi-ness of it. I think that's what he does. He makes horror movies that are also like campy and funny.
I'm all right now, Ashley. Come on, lock this chain, let me out.
Maybe it's Sam Raimi, and maybe we could blend our points here because I know you wanted to talk about him. I think it's Marvel, because Marvel, I think, is eroding its own self here. Because, like, you make a copy of a copy of a copy so many times, like, it just deteriorates to nothing. And I feel like this humorous tone to action and tense situations that sort of cuts, the comedy cuts through a little bit, is just eroding on itself to where it's just goofy now. It's just silly. Where in the beginning, it was just more well-timed, and you're like, oh, I could use a bit of levity right now. It's been a little bit serious for a little bit. And you're like, totally. That is fun. It's fun to see these guys' personality. But like, now we're back to the serious nature, and this seems important, and they've just lost every element of that because they're just like, jam in humor, jam in fun, do something silly that kids can feel good about and not be too scared with all this stuff. And then give them a sequence for 2 minutes that's like, oh, that's pretty cool when the girl, when Wanda comes out of that thing, like the girl from the ring, like, oh, cool, like that's interesting. Make the whole movie like this. Make every part of this like this, and then we'll be like, oh shit, there was some interesting editing points where the angle was like rotating, and it's like
I thought that was a really cool moment with the kids. She's trying to with her kids.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really cool image.
I was like, oh shit, that's cool, and that's great. That's great tone. That's great energy. That's putting me in the right place as a viewer for this whole movie. And then they'll go to some joke where the guy beats himself up for 30 seconds.
That's what I was waiting to say. Like, that to me, that's
egregious.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Exhibit A, the forced in Bruce Campbell cameo, where what is that, like a fucking minute and a half? It can't just be they walk by and nod to him like he's Stan Lee. He's got to have a shtick, and he's spraying mustard. Like, at that moment, that's when I would have walked out the first time.
Yeah.
Where that's when I was like, oh, okay. So the film has lost me.
Yeah.
You cannot come back from this point in my mind.
When you're,
I know that's...
It's like an old vaudeville clown routine where a guy with a rose on his pocket spraying mustard in his face, like, hilarious. Yeah. They can't. I just feel like that's what it's devolved
and your main characters are in the midst of a huge, dramatic, horrible thing. They've been expelled to another dimension. They don't know where they are. They're in a whole new universe, and they're gonna stop to have a fucking laugh and put a spell on this guy. Like,
yeah.
Stupid.
But that's, again, that was the formula in the beginning, and they balanced it really, really well. Now it just doesn't exist anymore because I think they've stripped away like why it actually worked in the beginning, and now it's just like, all right, make that funny. Just put in a joke, and move on. You know, it just doesn't.
Yeah, but this was even extreme by those standards, because I felt that way a lot about like Eternals, where there'd be like forced in humor that wasn't funny, but it was clearly just like they thought that was a funny line.
You know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
But it wasn't funny. Like, it's bad writing. It's not good comedy writing. This was just like, we don't just need a funny line, we need fucking slapstick.
Yeah.
Like that, and that was like weird. It's a weird tonal thing.
I would assume, because from, again, the little research that I did, I would assume they want to make sure that kids watch this movie because of America Chavez, because she's going to be a huge part of the Young Avengers. Her and like Haley Steinfeld's characters are like supposed to be, in the comics at least, from what I've read, like are going to be like they're going to form a super team of young Avengers or young people.
With Wanda's kids. With Wanda's kids too. And
yeah, exactly. So it's all like, so that audience is going to be for young kids, so they got to watch this movie. They got to be part of this movie if we're going to introduce her in at this point with this film. It's, it's goo arrows from Hawkeye. That's when that show lost me. Goo arrows?
Oh, that show had a tenuous hold on me the whole time. And then at that ending, I was like,
goo arrows? But Sam Raimi, I know you wanted to discuss Sam Raimi.
Yeah, well, first, let me just drag somebody else real quick in this segue, Segue Kings, because you mentioned America Chavez. That actress and Wanda's two kids, not very good.
No.
Not very good acting. And no disrespect, but like
a lot of disrespect. It sounds like a lot of disrespect.
No, like you can count me out of going to see whatever the Young Avengers movie. If like those two boys, I'm sorry, they're children. Please don't. I hope they don't watch this. But like their lack of chops completely undercut like any emotional scene, which all of the scenes that they were in were supposed to be. They're so like it's partially directing, maybe campy and corny. But then like at the end where it's revealed to, oh, the mom's a monster. I'm not a monster. Like I'm trying not to laugh at these kids' forced looks. And then the whole time throughout, you got America Chavez like kind of like high school stage acting. Like not great. And that's tough. That's tough. Especially for a character that you're like forcing me to care about all in a hurry. That fucking performance had better be pitch perfect. And I'm sorry, it is not.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I love children. As a new father, I would never
say it out loud.
I would never disrespect young children.
Every child is a miracle and a dream, and
yes,
you all deserve the best, sweetie. Let's talk about Sam Raimi, which was my key second key. Because we're talking about a little bit with the tone here and the horror elements. And I think that's all due to Sam Raimi. I mean, you read any of these reviews or any of these write-ups, he seems to have gotten more free reign to execute his style than almost any director of an MCU film to date. And I think that's why I don't like it. And I don't know, I don't completely understand like hardcore Sam Raimi fans, of which there are apparently quite a few. I ask respectfully, like, why? Like, I think it is just like that, people like that campy horror, like they want to go to a horror movie and laugh. That's not me, that's never been me, so I can't really relate. But like Sam Raimi's filmography is weird. Like it's the Evil Dead movies, these like campy horror, fun, violent movies in the 80s, and then this weird stretch of random shit like The Quick and the Dead and stuff in the 90s. And then he did that Spider-Man trilogy. The third film of which is
legend.
Fucking terrible.
Yeah, people love that
and
one.
The first two are like pretty good. And then he did that Drag Me to Hell movie. And that's really it. Like, so like it's weird to me that he's such a thing. You know, like, oh, Sam Raimi.
I mean, just you've named a bunch of movies and I'm familiar with them. I think that's why. I mean, you just know of him. You just know of him. So when people say, oh, I got a name, and you know that name, and it's synonymous with horror, and you go, oh, cool.
And superhero.
And superhero, yeah. But
no, he seems to be the right choice on paper
for the project.
For this film. I liked that it felt different. You know what I mean? Like because that's what we complain about a lot of these is they become very formulaic. But like, I didn't like, that doesn't mean I like the way it felt. You know what I mean? Like it's good, different, but bad. Like different in a bad way. Sam Raimi's style starts to bring in this camp, this sort of like corniness, and between that general style, along with like Dutch angles like crazy and like really kind of dated effects, like the morphine blur of like, oh, we drank bad tea and now we're doing this really basic, like he has kind of this throwback style. Like to me, the film starts to feel more like a Batman and Robin, like a super hyper self-aware, tonally strange, and then you combine that with the fact that it's so complicated that like, there's zero stakes. I mean, you talk about superhero movies and fantasy films and not liking that you can't understand what people's powers are because then nothing means anything. And my God, this is Exhibit A for that. Like this movie, I had like, what can these people do? And why can they only do it sometimes, but not all the time? I know we're dealing with sorcerers and witches and fucking time travel and inter-universal dimensional, but like, I thought so obviously at the end when Wong is like trying to come to the rescue or whatever at that fucking throne room or whatever, and like he's like hanging from the side of the mountain, and like he says, my magic can't take us up there. Yeah. But like he's still using his magic, like he can create spells to fight, but he can't just fly up. Yeah. He can't make something that helps him get up there, like. And I know I'm not gonna be that guy that's like going through like, wow, like because it's intentionally, don't think about it. But that only works if the movie's really good. Right. Like it only works if the movie's really good. Am I not gonna start thinking about this shit? Yeah. Where it's like when Elizabeth Olsen, when Wanda shows up at the Carmartage at the beginning to start her battle, and you have all these fucking sorcerers down there, like what was their plan? Like what their whole plan was just to make a force field, and if she gets past that, we're all gonna die. Like that, like all that, like again, maybe that stuff was bad. That stuff was bad. If I don't understand what might happen, or what can happen, or what can prevent that from happening, or just where we are, what world are we in, like what does anything mean, then it's just like fucking noise. And this movie is full of all that shit anyways. I know. So it'd be a lot anyways. They don't focus on that stuff. I mean, that's all I want from these films is some attention to detail in the sense of cause and effect. Like, if this happens, then this happens. And give me some sort of groundwork to understand the playing field, the stakes of like how this fucking thing works. I'm willing to go on these journeys and like, let's have fun. But lay it out for me in a way where I can understand where we are and why we are there. Yeah, we could sit here and go. We could do 2 hours of like what didn't make sense if we want to go to that granular level. We might. But let's remember, Wanda can control minds, right? And she did with that one guy. Oh, I'll just tell him to run, and I'll ruin it. Like control everyone's mind. Like, how do you defeat that? If she can get in, like, it doesn't make any sense because it can be solved very, very quickly. I want them, the screenwriters, to think about these things. And maybe they say that they do, but then also in Endgame, the rat saves the day. So nothing fucking matters. Like, they don't give a shit. Time and time again, they don't give a shit about these types of things. And that's all I want. That's the level of effort that I want. Oh, yeah. The moment that really sent me over the edge, where I think this is when I broke into laughter, like I was shaking. Like I had to bury my face because I was just like laughing like I was at a stand-up show. Was where like he's like, I think he's about to dream walk or whatever at the end. And he's like, you stay and guard me, to Rachel McAdams, against like the spirits of the netherworld or whatever, the souls of the damned or whatever the fuck. And I was like, who? What? And then these fucking ghosts are just like coming out of everywhere and attacking. And like when they flew out, maybe it was his eyeball and started attacking her. I was like, so what? Who are these? Like what are these things? Why are they here? What is happening? Not only is who are they, we've not mentioned them at all. We have no frame of reference to what this is or why they are here. Why would you let this typical average woman, like no superpowers, no nothing, defend your body from these cruel, evil demon spirits? Like, what is she armed with? What have you prepared her with? She knows the magic. She knows the thing. How? How did she know the I missed that. Because in that world, in that universe, she's an expert of the multiverse, so she knows how his magic items work. She just picked up a thing and was like, oh, this'll work. What? Yeah, why? I'll do this, and everyone knows this. Everyone knows whoosh, this thing. Everyone knows that. You guys, it was so bad. That doesn't make any sense. You know what? Well, since we're nitpicking, keep it coming, baby. I got two other ones where I kind of threw up my hands and go, guys, what are we doing? Oh, I got another. Yeah. You want to go or you want me to? No, you go.
Professor X. They have this whole, it's 15 minutes of why Doctor Strange can't be trusted and he's the problem. Right? And so that whole thing, 20 minutes, and then the last 30 seconds of that scene is, but the thing that you're looking for, it's here, it's in the back room, you can go find it if you need it. But
Yeah,
but
I trust you.
I trust you. You're cool. It's just, you couldn't find a more clever way for him to find that information out than literally the guy who was telling you you're enemy number one, then just goes, this is what you're looking for, it's right down the hall. What?
That whole scene, that whole sequence was so insulting that like the bait and switch nature of it, it just all looked cheap. Like it all looked like this, like they're done trying. Like they just thought, oh, we'll get John Krasinski, we'll get we'll get Patrick Stewart, and then we'll get these like this Captain Marvel that people will recognize, and we'll get the Captain Carter, who's people like from the show, and some random fucking guy that and it'll be cool. But it's like it seems like so C-list. Like that's you want to impress me? You want to tell me that the Multiverse of Madness is important? Like Robert Downey Jr. needed to be sitting up there as Iron Man from another dimension.
Yeah.
You needed to have Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio be fucking Bullseye or whatever the fuck that guy's Bolt, that even if he doesn't talk, like that's funny. You got like, it needs to feel like it matters. It needs to not just be in some bland vanilla room with like, that's just all, like that was the worst. And then you kill all those people and then it's just like, okay, like you don't care about it. You didn't put any effort into this at all. Like Krasinski never even stretches out. Like you're not even gonna show?
What, he tried, like he had like one, he reached out.
It looked bad. And I thought some of the effects in general, looked like not great.
Well, I thought that was gonna be one. The CG, I think it's awful. Like I thought this was one of the worst films at that. When you come right into that room, like the opening scene, that room feels really poorly executed. Like really fake, like I could just see the green screen. I feel like I keyed it out in After Effects. Like
no,
it just,
seriously.
It didn't, I thought that's what was gonna be one of your points. I was like, he's gonna tear this apart.
It almost goes without saying because like the effects are bad and the movie is wholly reliant on them. And that's why the horror stuff doesn't land for me either. Because even Wanda coming out of the fucking screen or mirror or whatever, it's like, oh, that's creepy, but it's so computer. That would be really terrifying if they built like a fucking animatronic thing that's like unfolded, like, oh my God. Like if you could tell it was there, that would be terrifying, terrifying. But there's so much CGI in this film that is not great and it needs it. It needs to be top notch. And that to me is just another sign of Kevin Feige's getting bored or they just don't think that the standard doesn't need to be as high. They're starting to like they probably have been doing this for years, but take the audience for granted. Like the audience is gonna come no matter what. Whereas Iron Man and those first couple of Captain America movies, like we really have to put some thought and we wanna make this like a decent film. That's not really a thing anymore because all the movies in Phase 4, these 5 films, with the exception of No Way Home, are like bad. Like the other 4 films are amongst the worst 4 that Marvel has made.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's a telltale sign that they're just like not trying as hard. They don't feel like they need to try as hard.
I think I honestly think they look at it. My wrestling analogy, which was cut from our No Way Home episode.
Yeah, we can't use WWE clips anymore.
We can't use any of those clips, but I'll give the analogy again. These movies have, to me, just feel more like WWE, main events. It's WrestleMania. And it's just raw emotion. It's good versus evil. There's a little bit of a backstory, but it just doesn't need to make sense. I think they've realized why people come to the theaters to go see this. I think it's just for that, oh my God, here comes this person. This person's here.
Totally.
Oh my God. It's just like an event of just like raw emotion. And it's like, who's gonna win this fight? Who's gonna win the fight today? And that's it. And like that's what really moves the needle. And I think they've realized it. So they just like they're doing a cheat code to be like, well, what's going to make the biggest bang?
Yeah, and you could feel in this movie too all these moments where they like thought that's going to be a big applause moment. There's like 7 moments that are clearly edited and shot in a way to be like, this is gonna make them stand and clap.
Yeah.
And to your point, that's what they're banking on people want.
Yeah.
Is like, and that was one of the first things I said in this, that means you have bad taste. If you go home and you're like, that movie was awesome. Okay, why was it awesome? Well, did you remember that part when they did this? Like, yeah. And you remember the part where they said this? Yeah, that was cool. Like, well,
Yeah.
that's not a good movie.
But that's what it is. That's Martin Scorsese is correct. They're
Yes.
just they're experiences. They're just fun
Yeah.
experiences. And I think you and I and people who are on this side of the table,
Higher intellectual elites.
geniuses is the word that I'm looking for. Just geniuses.
Not with you poppers.
I just think we need to accept that those days of storytelling are over, and it's just WrestleMania. It's just
Well, and that's why I'm done. That's why I'm done.
But
Like,
I still may
I'm
go
done.
see another. I may go see a few more of these movies. Maybe not in the short term, but I'll
go
check
see
in.
Thor.
Yeah,
I'll go see the
I'll
Thor
definitely go
because
see
Taika
Thor.
is great. Taika makes a good movie.
That's a good example. But as a Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe I'll check that out. But the new stuff, it's. I just know it's not going to be for me, and I'll catch the cool moments afterwards. Oh, did you see that?
That's all it is.
Because that's all it is. Yeah, because that's all it is. It's just spoilers. Everything is just like, what is that big moment that everyone's going to talk about? As big as you make these things, you have to make it relatable to audiences in a way that they can relate to. Because if everything's a god and sentient beings and things like that, like I have no context for that. I don't.
Yeah.
To my day-to-day, I need to get to some raw human emotion for me to relate to it.
Well, the only 2 pieces off the top of my head of raw human emotion in this movie that they tried for was Strange's relationship with America Chavez. And like, I trust you now. But like, that's completely undercut by America Chavez. We don't know. So there's no built up emotion there. And her performance doesn't do her any favors. And B, because he's a fucking zombie, like delivering this line like that takes you out of that human relatability. And then the other thing is his relationship with Rachel McAdams, which he's like apologizing for and da-da-da. But it's not even her. It's not even her. So it's like these are 2 people who haven't ever met. Like, so it doesn't mean the same. Like, you are undercutting that necessary relatability so that I can watch and be like, oh yeah, that's like me and my love, or that's like me and my daughter, or that's me and my mentor, or whatever. It's not there. It's not there.
Correct.
Fuck, man.
That's it's exactly what I said though too. I wrote it down in my note. I'm taking notes as I'm watching the film, and I said this emotional moment of when he's talking to Chavez, like, you can do it, believe in yourself, you can do it. As like, this is really tough coming from a zombie. It's just tough. It's just.
Well, and they thought that was cool. Like, oh, this is like fun. Well, like, and people liked it. Like, I've seen that on Twitter and shit. Like, people commenting like, that was so unique and different and fun. But it's like, that distracts you from the story. Like, it's just a moment then. It's just like a cool moment that you remember. It's not like a good sequence of a film that's gonna drive emotion out of me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry, if that zombie telling her she can be whatever she wants to be made you like cry, like, I'm sorry, that's so like judgmental, but that's silly. That's silly. You're being overdramatic.
I also think the key to this whole film to making this girl realize her powers is just someone saying, believe in yourself. Like, no one told her to believe in herself up until this point. Like, it's not like there's nothing behind that. It's just like, it needs to happen at this point. It needs to be sentimental. Just say, we believe in you and you're perfect the way you are.
You know what was the fucking stupidest thing too? was when they got to those memory projectors. Was that the worst device you've ever seen in a film? And I don't mean literal device. I mean like plot device.
Plot device.
Oh,
yeah.
You stand on this and it shows it projects your memory on the side of a building.
What's even worse is that they find it by accident.
Yeah. What an accident.
Accident.
What's even worse is then they both just stand there and watch it. You're gonna stand there and watch it on a fucking downtown street where there's just passerby. You're gonna have them watch your memories of your killing your mothers. Like, what are we doing? And then it was either right before that or right after that they ran into Bruce Campbell and had a fucking mustard fight.
It was right before it.
I was just like, this is a 1-2 that I can't. You got me.
I'm
You
just,
got me.
I'm just so tired. I said it to myself. I'm just so tired of people finding there's important plot points in the film that will move the story forward, and people find those by accident. Those things happening just randomly because. You mean to tell me you couldn't write in a part of a scene where America goes, hey, look at this. We should try this. Maybe this will help. Like they try, that's part of their plan. They actively take steps to figuring out how, not just like happen into, I just take a step. Hey, what is this? I just, is this the key to me moving forward in this film?
Character development?
Oh, interesting. Like you can't have your protagonist be active. You can't do that. Like to me, it's basic. It's basic filmmaking. Basic levels of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Don't have things happen by accident.
Oh God, one last thing. The music fight. Explain.
It's a collection of moments. It's just a collection of moments it's a collection of ideas that someone in a writing room said, you know, it'd be cool. Music fight. We've never done that before, so we do like.
Well, they'll use notes. They'll literally stab each other with notes.
Mm-hmm. With no frame of reference as to why that is meaningful.
No meaning.
In this situation.
Did his mom used to play the harp and there was da-da-da-da-da, so that's why this moment that we gotta linger with this one note that flies across the room. Like, that is stupid.
The
that
other
is
instruments
objectively stupid.
The other instruments aren't even in the room. Like, it just starts out one way and then just goes, yeah, fuck it. Like all the notes, all the musics, all the instruments, everything. It's not like they were using those things as weapons. You know what I'm saying? Like the piano was there, but it's not like, oh, the bongos are over here. We're gonna use this, and it's gonna. It just happened. It
was like when I write a script or I come up with an idea. It's because I hear a song and I visualize a scene. Or it's because I have an idea of a crazy situation and then I visualize a scene around that. And then I work to build out what could be a story that fits around that. Like I start with that small of a moment. To me, this movie just had someone that did that 30 times. What if we had a scene where this is magic and they fought with magic music and notes were flying? Okay, but then they don't build anything around it to mean anything. It's just these isolated gimmicks.
Yeah, gimmicks, yeah.
That it's just like, oh, what? This time they'll do a music fight, and this time he's gonna fly and do this, and this time it's gonna do, and it just nothing makes sense, and nothing connects in any meaningful, impactful, emotional way. It's bad. Look inside yourself. It's bad. I'm sorry. It's bad.
It's not great. It's not great. Can we pause for 1 second? I know we're running.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I only got 30 ounces of milk that I'm trying to give her.
All right, I'm done.
Little baby crying.
Little baby crying. So I gotta go.
Yeah, that's fine. We're wrapping it up.
Hello?
Hello, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, my third key was Doctor Strange as a character. I'm over it. All right, the end.